Hello. So hello. First time in Estonia. I'm very happy to be here. 1 minute, some logistics. Okay. So that's me. 11 years ago. Where do you see? Okay, it's here. So it's me, and I'm here on a trip that changed my life. That was 11 years ago, and 5 random guys. I knew only my groupmate Victoria, the second girl, and we decided to hitchhike in Morocco for 3 weeks and just to explore Morocco. And with 11 euros per day, we said, okay, we don't know each other, but let's try. And like, who would ever guess that like one of these random guys eventually will become my business partner? And at that time, I was a student, and I was expecting to do something in culture management area, while Justas was already a developer, and he was like whose passion was to build everything from the scratch. So at that time, I was like, I couldn't imagine myself in business. I was like everything but not a business person. And I actually came from the background where people, like business people, were considered to be, I think it's common for everyone, like business people are considered to be liars, thieves, the ones that you cannot trust. So from our grandparents, like thinking, and it was like the worst thing is to become one of them. I also was told like that people who try to pay attention to themselves, they are shallow, they are arrogant, they are like very good material for judging. And it didn't help me to see myself in business. And actually, I wasn't alone in doubting my business perspectives, because once my high school teacher, like a few years ago actually, we met and she said, like, Milda, like if I had to make a list of people who will succeed in business, you wouldn't be in that list, neither short nor long one. And I was like, thank you, teacher. But well, that was true. And it seems that life, well, has kind of good sense of humor, because when I was 21, I founded Vinted. And at that time, I was like actually a very ordinary student. You would never pay attention to me in a crowd. I was active, yeah, I was curious, but at the same time, I was so full of fears, and I was so afraid of the world that like I couldn't go further. But despite those fears, I had 2 things in my deep inside me that were stronger than me and stronger than my fears. So one thing was I had like insane, unstoppable passion for clothing, like for shopping, and I used to spend like 80% of my salary on clothing in the first week. And I didn't care that I will not be able to buy food for the next 3 weeks and so on, because like for me, dress was much more important than like salads or soup during the lunchtime. And the second thing that I promised to myself, so I need to love my future job. And that came again from my closest environment, where I saw people who are, they are going to the jobs to work because they have to, because they need money, but not because they're enjoying it. And I said, okay, I couldn't imagine myself in their shoes. And well, actually, I didn't want to, because come on, we spend 1/3 of our life at work. So it's like, it better be interesting and inspiring. So that was my life back then. It was university, my shopping addiction, and future hopes. And then everything changed. Like, idea about Vinted popped to my mind. And it was like, again, very random thing, because I was moving from my native town to Vilnius, to the capital, to study. And I had to move like all of my closets from my mother's apartment to rented apartment, which was obviously much smaller, to be precise, 3 times smaller. And then it was first time that I took a look at my closet. And I was actually shocked, because I counted about 150 items, still with tags, or worn once or like maximum twice. And it was like, no, wow, like I should do something about this. And then I came up with the idea like for online platform for girls like me to sell, swap, buy like clothing with each other. And then a few days later, I was randomly, again, like as you see, lots of random factors, randomly invited to the party, housewarming party, where I met the same random guy, Justas, this one. And we just started our conversation with a joke, so we're heading next. And it was like a few hours later, we just talked, and just at 2 a.m. I said, you know, I have the idea. And I told about the idea and everything, and I was like, no, okay, let's do it. Like, I'm in. And I was like, okay. So in 2 weeks, we launched the first version of Vinted. And that was the second trip we started with Justas together. And then miracle happened, actually, because from the first, like literally from the first day, Vinted started to grow like insane, like with zero marketing budget, like I would say not marketing, with zero budget, like for business, except servers for like 10, 20 euros per month. We started to grow like from like 10, 15, 20 times a month. And it was like no, growth was like no, never ending. And it was like, what's happening? Like we knew that we discovered something huge. Well, we realized that we discovered something huge, but we still couldn't understand what. And despite even that success, we decided to stay volunteers here like for the next 3 years, because we still couldn't see this as a business. It was still a hobby project, like our passion, where we want to just to play. But such a huge growth actually paid investors' attention, and they started to call us and offer a deal. And after like several months, we said, okay, let's do it. And then we made a contract with Axel Partners. And these Axel Partners, I'm not sure how much you're familiar with them, but it's a venture capital company, and actually it's not the ordinary company. It's the company that also invested into Facebook, Spotify, Dropbox, Angry Birds, and like in early stage, and like many other global players. And then I said to myself, like, okay, if they believed in us, if they invested into us, so it means that, well, it's really about something. So I said, okay, let's prove that. And I'm very happy that at the moment, like, I'm not saying that we proved. I'm saying we are on the way to prove, because at the moment we have 21 million members around the world, and it's growing like insane each month. So then we count. So it's like no. So for me, it's like it's nice that some like small startup from Lithuania, they are like no comes and shows like to global players that, well, we can do this. So that's about like how Vinted was born, and I know that most of you are here like not only to hear Vinted's story. Most of you are here to hear something useful for yourself, like what you can use, like implement in your daily life or in business life. So I made several learnings and findings that I would like to share. So one thing is like planning is important, but lucky accidents cannot be forgotten. And this is like it's a thing that like I always assumed that in order to achieve something, you need to work hard. And I still think it's the case. But I never expected that lucky accidents might influence my path or everyone's path that much. Like one of the luckiest accidents that happened, so the fact that Vinted was born, like, idea 2 a.m. in a party, like with that random guy, seriously? Like, so one more random thing what happened to us with like lucky accident, it was about our idea to go global. At the beginning, we didn't think about ourselves about like global players. We thought that it's only a Lithuanian thing. And while like two German girls decided to come to Lithuania, and I'm not sure how much you're familiar with couchsurfing or hospitality, but well, they decided to come via couchsurfing and to stay at Justas' place for 2 nights. And then they get back again at 3 or 5 a.m. in the morning after the party and find like Justas coding Vinted. And they just ask, okay, what are you doing? And they explain, like. And he explains, and they say, okay, we want to be volunteers. I know that you don't have money, but we are in. We want to have this thing in Germany. And we said, okay, let's be volunteers. And we started. And here we go, like after 1 year, German version overgrew Lithuanian version. And at the moment, Lithuania is the smallest website, the smallest product in our portfolio. It takes about like maybe 1% of all the visits that we have. So, and if I had to make a business plan, like, I would never, like, add the line, like, 2 German girls coming to Lithuania, and this is how we become global players. But that, like, helped us to open our minds. And this is, like, my takeaway here is, like, so human try to avoid things that you cannot control, because unknown is scary. And that's why people try to plan everything. But planning, it comes with a price. Because then you plan too much, you might close some windows for new opportunities. So I trained myself to stay open and just not to say no for crazy ideas. So from deep with my heart, I also I wish you don't stick to the plan all the time. Try to be open as well. Second thing is like vision without execution is hallucination. The first thing that our investors told, like, okay, impressive start with Lithuania, Germany, like now let's enter a couple new markets, but like this time, like professionals, not like punks anymore, not like via couchsurfing or parties anymore. And I do admit that lucky accidents, they're important and they might change the game, but at the same time, like, okay, you might win million like once, but what are your chances to win a million twice or 5 times in a row? And like the nature of lucky accidents is randomness and inconsistency. You can never trust them. And the bigger ambition you have, the more you need to try. Like, you need to work on this, babe. So it's like no other way. My takeaway here is that the goal without plan is just a wish. And I need to admit that for a long time, like I was stuck for too long in wishing, not acting, because the first 3 years were like full of lucky accidents, and we were growing like insane each month. And I was like, oh, maybe I don't have to work because I can go for holidays and it's still growing. And maybe that's the case. Maybe Vinted by now would still have 21 million members, but like most of us still have that idea that, but the opposite also might be very true, that Vinted wouldn't exist anymore. So my takeaway here that the bigger ambition you have, the less you should trust destiny, even though not to forget lucky accidents. The third thing is there are no shortcuts to gain knowledge. And then the investors joined our team, like I realized that, okay, I'm in a real business now. And it didn't take long to understand that, okay, being in business and having just a hobby project requires like totally different approach and dedication. Like before it was like, oh, I'm got bored of like answering tickets and emails. I'm going like 2 weeks off like from Vinted. Or, oh, I hate this task. I will skip this. So that was like not anymore, because that was totally different story. Because for the first time we said, okay, what is our mission? What goals do we have? How we are going to execute this? And for me, like discipline, planning, strategic thinking appeared in my life. And like for me, like person, like you can imagine how shocking it was for a girl who had nothing to do with business. Like I was like really everything but not business person. And then I said to myself, okay, I need to learn, like because business, it has its own ambition, its goals, and it's not a game anymore. And of course, I knew myself too well because I love challenges, especially the ones who look like impossible. And that's why I got into this with full speed, because I realized that, okay, I can open totally new chapter in my life. And then I started to read like books, best-rated books, internet articles, and so on, how to run the company, how to do everything with marketing, and so on and so on. And that was actually, well, it didn't help me at all. Contrary, actually, I started to believe in exact every word and wanted just to implement, just copy-paste everything what I read. And back then I didn't realize that books and internet articles, they just generalized everything, because each business case is customized, it's unique, and you need like different approach, and you just cannot take and copy-paste. So my recipe to grow was just learn from my teammates, which were luckily much more experienced than I was. And for me, it wasn't easy because, well, first of all, I had to defeat my ego. I'm co-founder. I need to admit to everyone that I don't know so many things. And it was like, it was painful. It was really painful. But later on, I just said, okay, if I want to grow, I don't know what to do else. So I just said, okay, I'm open, I'm listening, and I trust. And now I can say that was actually one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, because I grew as much as possible. Of course, it didn't take few months. It took maybe 5 years to grow, but still, it was like, for me, it was my path that helped me to grow. Another thing that helped me a lot in my personal growth path, so it was realization that I don't have to be perfect. And my my projects, they don't have to be perfect from the beginning. Because like, people do mistakes. People have the right to do mistakes. I have the right to do mistakes, and people learn by doing step by step. And that's why just as soon as I let like the perfectionism, and I said, okay, I'm allowed to do mistakes, I started to, to improve. Because like first strategy will be, of course, terrible. Second strategy that you write will be like terrible as well, but much better than the first one. And maybe after 5 years, you will see, oh, this is a paper that I can call strategy finally. But this, again, step by step. So my takeaway here, just don't try to build spaceships, like iterate, step by step. Because finally, it ends up in done is better than perfect. And one more learning, that there is nothing to be proud to work 14 hours per day. I've been there. I learned a lot about that. And because then, like, my ambition to grow fast led me to another extreme. I started to work like from Monday to Sunday, from 7 a.m. to midnight. And it was the thing that I wanted to prove to myself, to the world, that I'm capable. Because, well, I didn't know whether I am capable to stay here and to run the company. And it lasted like from almost 3 years. And then I came up to the point, I realized that I came up to the point where I started to avoid people. Not only because I don't have time, but just because I didn't know what to talk to them about. Because I was like, no, everything in my mind about business problems, about personal growth, and like how to run the company, and so on and so on. And I was like, I started to feel boring, like to everyone and to myself, or I would say especially to myself. So I realized that, okay, I need to change something, and I made one strict rule, like no working on weekends, and work on weekdays, work only till 8 p.m. That's it. Strict rule, no exceptions. And then, but the result I had to make it was the same. But then it helped me to rethink everything how I work. Instead of working hard, to switch to work smart. And since I see that we don't have so much time, I will try to hurry up. So that was like, I started to rethink about, okay, do I have priorities? Do I have goals before I start my job? Can I try like different time-saving techniques and just to save my time? I also became much more conscious about like how I spend my personal life. Like, because like then you don't have time, then you work too much. And if you sit at home next to your computer, like, is it like the really good quality time that you spend? So I said, okay, my rule number 2, no time for low quality leisure. And this is how I said, okay, so what inspires me? This is how I discovered pottery, like ceramics, then dance, extreme driving classes, and so many activities that I can just name it, but no time for today. So my takeaway here as well, like try to work smart and to think, like try to monitor yourself where you go, because the same result might be achieved by like, I don't know, 30, 40 times less effort. It's just like, you just have to work a bit and to think. The last insight and learning is about leadership is a choice, but not a position. And it took me some time to realize this. Actually, it took about 6 years to define what true leader means to me. Because back then, leader for me was the one who pays salary, or the one who is shareholder or founder by definition. Because, well, if you're a founder, it means you're the leader. And before that, I also looked at this as a side activity, because, well, leader steps in only if there is a problem. And then, but the best leader actually is the one who is like very good expert in, I don't know, finance, marketing, or somewhere else. And only later on, I defined totally new definition of leader. For me, leader is firstly the one who has vision, and people need to follow that person not because he pays salary, but because they want to. Leader, first of all, should have big picture and not to go into micromanagement first. The leader should understand that one person is always weaker than the group of people. That's why leaders should focus on empowering and growing people, and not to make it contrary. So that's the definition of leadership at the moment I have and carry with me. I'm very happy that I made like the first step, defined what leader means to me. Now there's only one step left, so it's to become one leader that I would like to be. And I'm not there yet, and I hope that one day I will be able to say, okay, it seems I succeeded. Because you remember, I like challenges that are impossible. So thank you, and I hope that was useful, and you will take something for you as well.
Thank you, Milda. Great to have your hands full. Thank you. Thanks. I'll take the clicker.
Okay, changing.
And please, yeah. And please find Milda later for questions because we're in a tight schedule here. 2 more stories for Superangel founder stories left. And second off is Kei Karlson, the co-founder of GoWorkaBit that connects companies with need of short-term staff with people who want to do a small gig in addition to their main job. You do know GoWorkaBit. She'll tell something new, something you don't know. Here you go, Kei. Woo!
Thank you, and hi for everyone. My name is Kei, and I'm co-founder of GoWorkaBit. I have a background in HR. I was, before GoWorkaBit, recruiting for different kind of companies, and actually the idea came from my previous job. I'm really, really passionate about how people work or how people find the work that actually makes them happy. And I'm more and more passionate about also the education that leads to that point that you actually can make yourself happy working and doing the work that is suitable for you. I will share a really personal story, so grab your handkerchiefs if you like. But before I go to that, I have to do this 10-second pitch. I will not go into product at all, but GoWorkaBit is a platform, web application that connects 2 sides. From one side, people who want to work in a really flexible way in different places, not committing at all. You can find a job, we call them work bites, for 2 hours, few days, few weeks. And from other side, companies can find extra people really fast to their companies if they want to do the job. So it's a marketplace. It's a toughest thing to, I think, build as a startup, this marketplace thing. So I'm telling you about my story of letting go, and why I chose this topic was that I think if you are a startup founders here or entrepreneurs or people who want to do this kind of thing, then you will have to let go of things, people, ideas, your dreams. So if I share this, maybe it is a little bit easier for you. If you are an investor, then you surely have to let go of money sometimes, and this could be really hard also. So I hope it's maybe useful for you also. And the second reason is that I think that in startups, we talk a lot about failing. And failing is kind of, you talk about in a fun way, or almost like release soon, fail fast, keep calm, keep failing, keep learning. But we don't talk a lot about how it actually feels. How it is actually like what is going on in your head at that moment, how do you feel in that moment, and how to recover from it. So this is why I want to share this story with you. The story begins almost now 5 years ago from starting GoWorkaBit. These are our 4 founders with me, Christian, Kerli, and Ethel also. We started GoWorkaBit in Garage 48 hackathon. It's the best hackathon series, I think, in the world, coming from Estonia. And we met for the first time. I pitched this idea that I had from my previous work. And we met for the first time. I think we fell in love quite instantly. It was kind of love at first sight. And we got several prizes also from Garage 48. And after working for 48 hours together with Coca-Cola and a little bit Estonian vodka, we made our first prototype, or actually kind of working website at that time. And then we realized that actually we love working with the idea and with each other also. So we quit our day jobs one by one after that and started working with GoWorkaBit. So the first months were like awesome. and we had such a high adrenaline, and we won Seed Camp London during first, I think, 4 months, and we also at the same time in the finals of Ajujaht, which is entrepreneurship contest in our national TV. So we were like kind of famous and successful. And this slide, for example, is from one of our first year's decks where we presented GoWorkaBit, that we had such a moments, quite a lot of such a moments, that we were the winners and everything was so great, and we felt this way. But if you are building a startup or starting with your new idea and coming out of your previous job, most days actually look like this in startup. You have no idea what are you doing. You have no idea where is this hockey stick that everyone is talking about. How do you actually know what is this product market fit, and how do I feel if it's here or not yet? So there was it got really difficult and more difficult, and as we were unemployed, this is I hope nobody is here from unemployment office. This is a semi-legal thing to be unemployed and start a business in Estonia. But about 1.5 years after starting GoWorkaBit, we actually ran out of our unemployment benefits also. So we didn't have any money at all. We had been working 24/7 for several months, and by that time, we didn't have this adrenaline or energy anymore. But it was we used to do that, so we were rolling with this energy. And I think that looking back, I was clinically depressed, for sure. I was so stressed out, and we were so exhausted. And I think that I made 3 kind of mistakes, or 3 things benefited or resulted in this situation that actually I was in. The first one was that I took it really, really personally, everything that was going on with the GoWorkaBit. I think actually every founder does. This is your baby. And if anything goes wrong, you are really, really worried. All the success stories, you take oh yeah, we were so lucky and we have 4 of us, but all the things that went wrong, I thought that it was my fault. The second thing that I did, for sure, is mistake, don't do that at home, was that when I was really, really tired already, I started to skip all the events, all the fun things around me that were not including GoWorkaBit. I ended my gym subscription because I didn't have any money and I didn't have actually time to go there anyway. I skipped all the social events with my friends because all my mind was about GoWorkaBit, and I didn't have time or money to participate in those either. Only events that actually we went to were startup events because of the free food and alcohol, of course. But they included also all the time pitching GoWorkaBit and questions about how are you doing and where is this hockey stick and what are your plans. So it actually added stress little by little. So combining these 3 things, I think I don't want to say luckily, but also my personal life went down the toilet at that time. I was going to separate from my life partner at the time. I had to move, find new schools for my kids. I have 2 kids, by the way, also. And I really, really wanted also to balance somehow my startup life with my personal life and being the mom also. And that also was a fail for me, because before GoWorkaBit, I used to even bake my bread at home. I was so perfect. And during GoWorkaBit, I couldn't do that anymore. So finding this balance, I realized that it was not possible anymore, the way I have imagined it. And due to the fact that I ran out of my money, I had to move and do other stuff, I actually left GoWorkaBit. It was so hard to do, and I think the reason why is that skipping all the social events around me and not meeting my friends anymore and not doing anything else besides GoWorkaBit, I actually thought that, who am I outside the GoWorkaBit. Who am I as a person if I don't do GoWorkaBit? So that's why it was really, really, really hard for me to do. The story in my head, this is also that Ivo told, that you will get the stories in loop in your head at that time also. The story in my head was that if I leave GoWorkaBit, that proves that I tried to do something really awesome and I failed, and it actually will define me somehow. I thought also that I had such a great chance. I had these 4 founders that we are together and an awesome team, and we won all the contacts and everything was there, and I blew it anyway. So I will blow every chance I will have in this life. I actually thought that this was the peak of my life, and from that point, everything will go down the toilet for me. So these were like the thoughts in my head at the time. How it felt? It felt awful. I was so sad. I cried myself to sleep several nights a week, for weeks actually, and at that time I even didn't realize that it's not normal. I thought that everybody does that when they do a startup. I felt also really alone. Even when we had these founders and we are really great friends also and talk about everything, I still felt really alone, and I didn't want to bother them with my worries because they were worried anyway. And then I left GoWorkaBit. I was like 4 months, it was like a zombie mode for me. I went to the company to do this kind of same job that I did before GoWorkaBit. And after this 4 months of zombie period, I started to recover from this. And after 9 months, Christian, who is the CEO of GoWorkaBit, asked me to come back. And then I was ready to come back. I thought that it will never happen because I didn't want to hear anything about GoWorkaBit startups even during these first months. But I made a comeback, and I'm really, really happy today in GoWorkaBit. And I tried to analyze what it was that helped me do that. And I think there are 2 main things. I had a shift in my head. I don't know how to push the button to make that shift in your head, but this shift contains from 2 things, I think. First of all, I read, this is not me in the picture, by the way, but this is a startup founder who has written a really awesome article about startupping, and this is called Fuck the Work-Life Balance. If you Google it, you will find it. I suggest you read it. I realized that there is no such a thing that this kind of balance that I wanted to achieve in my work life. I realized that nothing will actually happen if I don't work with GoWorkaBit for days or even for months now. I will take 1 month out of year for myself. GoWorkaBit will not die. And I also realized that if I'm in the really good working flow and I'm not cooking for 2 or 3 days and not going to shop either, then my kids will not die either. So they will actually manage. So my new balance is that I'm doing what makes me happy. And this is totally fine. The second thing was that it is really well described, this inner peace or accepting your experiences in Brené Brown's book, Rising Strong. I really recommend this to read also. I didn't have that book at the time that I would needed it, but afterwards this describes really well this process that you are having if you are on your knees face down and you have failed big time, how to get up again, and the magic actually happens in this darkest place. So now I have this shift that in my mind and this knowledge that even if really bad things will happen, and they will happen anyway, you will fail and you will succeed. This is life. These are experiences, and these experiences don't define you. How you act or how you think of or how you see those experiences, this is more important. So I suggest that you read that. And I will end with with a quote. Actually, it is also from that book. Brené Brown refers to the quote quite a lot in this book, that this is Theodore Roosevelt's famous speech from the man in the arena. And it is really, really true that the credit does not belong to those people who are watching the show, who are like pointing fingers or telling what you should do or what should be different. The credit actually belongs to the man or to the woman who is in the arena doing those things, experiencing those fails and losses also. So I will wish you all awesome experiences, experience that will teach you and give you opportunity to grow as a person also. And just remember that if you are face down on your knees or have failed big time and feel really, really sad, then credit is yours. Credit belongs to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kei. Thanks. And find her for questions. She'll be around. We'll now go on with the third startup story. It will be presented by the CEO and founder of Veriff. Veriff is probably one of the startups that has the most interesting story already. With the first 2 years, I think they've been around. There's a lot to tell. Kaarel founded the company straight from high school. So he's super young, super ambitious. They got into Y Combinator. They finished the winter batch and are considered among one of the most successful already from that batch. They also are funded by Ashton Kutcher and the creator of Gmail, as well as David Hindrikus and Kaidi Rusalap. And Kaarel, where are you? Can I see you? Here, come on stage. Here you go.
Hi. Thank you for the great introduction. Actually, what I meant to share with you actually today is how this journey actually looks at the kitchen side, how everything is going, and how you can really go step by step to make it all happen. And sometimes you just have to work hard to get all those lessons and then see what will tomorrow the life look like at this point. But how Veriff happened, and the first question, it was actually to me like how I got into the entrepreneurship. I'm actually from the second biggest island in Estonia, Hiiumaa. I grew up on this small island. We have a farm, around like 60 cows, and yeah, it was a great time there. And I wasn't aware that I'm going to start in a tech business, but I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. And it was the time when many people on the island Hiiumaa, they had their summer cottages, and they just came there to stay for a weekend. And when they arrived Friday evening, then already Saturday morning, they started to move the law. And they got it done by the afternoon of Sunday, and then they went back to Tallinn, and this was like how their life looked like. And then at this point, there should be a next button. Yeah. It was my first job in a way. I really went to those people, like knocked on their door, and I went there. Imagine, you like basically come back to the island Hiiumaa, and you don't have to moon the law. And you have like those things covered. And yeah, I mean like, I got the job. I had like 4 households that I was keeping doing this work. And I got my first things, like my own bicycle. Because I'm the youngest one in my family, then I got always my bigger brother and sister things, but now I was able to have my own bicycle at that time. And it was a great experience. And I really noticed that, okay, I liked the things that we do. And then, yeah, this is just to save up time. It's so hard to translate this story. So we can go further. There's like wine holders that I really noticed that, okay, with my first few things, I didn't become a unicorn at that time. Then I have a new business idea. I really noticed that I can do those things. I can really mass produce it and sell. But it happened to be that people don't buy those wine-related things from like 14-year-old guy who was like trying to sell it. And even though what I learned that I wasn't even selling it so much. So I really learned that no matter what kind of product you have, you really have to sell it as well. And yeah, still it didn't work out with this project. Then I noticed that, okay, now I would like to provide the joyrides with those chats and everything on the island Hiiumaa. And if you know those voucher bars like cherry.ee that took place it isn't there anymore. But at that time, I was able to just say to people like, oh, you can have 50% discount and 1 hour ride costs only 15 euros. And I really showed that this happens all on the island Hiiumaa. But it happened to be that so many people started to come from Tallinn, from Narva, from everywhere to Hiiumaa because it was like 50% discount there. And yeah, this was one of the coolest experiences that I had. And this was already great times. And then we did different surfing camps and everything. We failed with those projects, but we learned that, you can't always run. You just fail as well. And clicker is not working, huh? Now I like this part. I really enjoyed that GoWorkaBit was here, because at that time I was doing my student company, and it was Sans. And we were doing it at the same time, I think. We were like great minds think alike. And then we thought that, we need to have this kind of job website as well. At that time, I used Paint mostly. And then we started with this project. And it went further and further, and actually it was a very successful project for us. We got the 3rd prize in the Best Estonia student companies, and it was great success all in all. And then another project that came up was the part that I knew that so many people are selling ice cream during the summer festivals. But the Estonian summer, it isn't like that as it is at the moment. And the ice cream business can go, or depending on the weather, it's like when it's rainy day, then nothing happens. I haven't been on my own to Positivus or other festivals what happens in Pärnu? There's vegan festival, but my power banks were there. And I thought that no matter what the weather is, people want to charge their phones. And we had a team who were selling power banks, and this business was great. And this really happened to be an awesome business. We just rebranded and everything. And then I noticed, okay, things are getting started. And then I had the case study at the same time at TransferWise, where my obligation was to really work hard on, okay, Kaarel, let's see, maybe you can go through the identity verification part, and let's see how we can improve it and go through all those things. And it was, I think, 4 months in total when I worked on this project. But in the end, I really had the view that I really want to get it done. And I didn't get the job in the end at TransferWise, to do it full time and going further. And because we really noticed that, Veriff or this kind of service can provide more if it's independent company, and you can really do things on your own. And then, straight after secondary school, I founded Veriff. Veriff was verification plus sheriff, and then we thought that, okay, this is how we are going to do it. So, this was the story, how I got to this part, how everything happened, and it doesn't mean that you have to leave all of your life in Tallinn. You can just come from the small island as well to make it all happen. And then, with Veriff, we're passionate about this problem. We really noticed there's a huge thing that needs to be fixed, and there's a huge need for it. But there were also things and some mistakes that we did in the early days that we really needed to fix and get those things done. And one of the things that every startup basically has to go through is different stadiums and near-death situations as well. And we've had our near-death situation. And actually, this near-death situation happened around like last year at the same time, basically. And actually, the business and everything went great. We signed Uber as our customer and everything. But in the end, we noticed that, there's some things that we need to fix and get things done. And in the hard times, you really see that actually you can grow so good together with your core team that prove to be very united, and you can just do great things. So it means that every startup has at the kitchen side many things which aren't so easy, but you have to go through. And going through those parts that are shaping your company's culture, that you always know that there's no broken things, you can get everything fixed. It ended up with a Y Combinator. There was Gustav Hallstromer, who was from YC at Lift 99, had an interview with 10 Estonian startups, and they said Kaarel, I've been working at Airbnb, and we really noticed that you guys have the solution that can fix so many issues. Why are you still here in the Baltics? You really have to come and see the other markets as well. And then we noticed, why not? And we applied for YC. And in the end, we made it to the YC. And this was one hell of a ride. 4 months, we worked, and we gave our best, and this is how the rocket ship started to launch near to Elon Musk there, basically. And it was, we've been having 40% month-over-month growth for seven months in a row. And this was the beginning of many great things. And just to show you and give you an example how everything goes in terms of YC, how this accelerator is built up. You have this phase where you have the mentors, and you can everything is on you. It depends on you, but you can have the opportunity to ask from so many wise people. And then it sums up with a demo day where you have time to give your 2-minute pitch. This pitch isn't so much public, but I thought that I can show you just today how we were on stage, how we did this pitch in front of our 700 investors, and then share you some thoughts how it was in the end. So let's see whether we can play this video. Is there a sound as well?
My name is Kaarel, and this is Janer, and we are from Veriff. Veriff is Stripe for online identity verification. We allow any website and mobile application to verify driver's license, passport, and government-issued ID. Financial services, marketplaces, and on-demand industries, they need to verify their users, to comply with regulations, and to build up trust. We've created a unique approach to online identity verification, which has brought us to 60,000 in monthly revenue in February, and we are on track to do 100,000 in March by having 20 customers, and we are profitable. Even more, we've signed LOI with TransferWise, one of the biggest fintech companies in Europe, and we'll start to test with Airbnb. We believe that there's 250 million people in the US that have to verify their identity on top 10 online services each year. We charge on average $1 per verification, and this already represents 2.5 billion market opportunity in US alone. We are Veriff. We are Stripe for online identity verification. We did 60K in revenue in February, and we are on track to do 100K in March. We are profitable, and we are just getting started in this 2.5 billion market in US. Thank you.
So yeah, this was basically the speech that we had. And the Paul Graham, who is like the founder of YC, I had a walk with him, and he said me, Kaarel, you guys have like great product and everything, but you have only one rule. You have to talk slowly through your strong Estonian accent and make yourself understandable. So it was like, yeah, Paul, I can understand. Yeah, it's like, how I can make it happen. So it was the time when I learned this speech, and I was like in the parking lot, and I think I have it by heart, and it was like great times. But yeah, what happened after? There was over 260 investors who really wanted to get in touch with us. They said there was such a huge FOMO and everything. Like, there's like this Estonian with the weird accent, and this everybody, we have to invest in this thing. And yeah, it was crazy. There was investors who followed us to the airport. There were investors who just, there's a football game, want to join, and everywhere. We weren't able to answer them all. And then we went through the first acquisition topics and everything. And then we really decided that, okay, we don't want to sell our company. We really want to do it on our own. We really want to gain the trust of the internet on our own. And let's choose some craziest investors that we have to build it all together. And yeah, it's like, this basically how we changed the game. It was like so many things that we had at that time. It's like customers started to come in, and you know that you have the product market fit at this point when you're just keep on going, like hiring customer support, salespeople, and you really just have to get the only thing done just to serve your customers that are in the waiting list. And currently, we are like 25 awesome people in our team. We are recruiting a lot. And yes, there's very big news coming up soon. And at the end, I think to sum it up with one funny story. It was when we opened up the service for all the customers to use. Then ICOs, they had to verify their investors. And there was one awesome company that started to use our service. And when we sent them the invoice, they asked me, like, Kaarel, is it possible to transfer in crypto, or do you have the crypto wallet as well on your company so we can transfer for the service and do those things? I said, no, we don't have the crypto wallet. So it's like, we have fiat only. Here is the invoice, and you can transfer the money. And it happened to be that there's only 1 week left, and they haven't paid their invoice yet. And we were like, okay, how it's going to be? But at the last day of their invoice, there was a person who knocked on our door, and he just came from St. Petersburg to Tallinn to give basically for the service. So there was an online identity verification service paid in cash. We never saw like so much, like 500 euros or something like that before, and there was like, we thought, is it real or how it all happened? But yeah, then we know that you can also provide online identity verification service. The payment options are like different. So yeah, that's about it, and happy to give you an overview. Yeah.
Woo! Thank you. Before I give you the gift, one question, because there's many things. I think you dropped like Airbnb, you dropped many things, but people can now ask about it. So one question from the crowd. I will ask. Tell about the Airbnb story. You will start testing with Airbnb. That's huge.
It is.
Tell a little bit more if you can.
I don't know how deeply I can go through it, but yeah, it's like it's interesting because they really need the service that we are providing, and it's just currently the part that
That's all you can
the
say?
volumes are like very, very high. It's like nearly verifying every single Estonian twice a day. So it's like.
And how did the deal come to you? Through YC or?
There's like YC, they can basically just do an interview and then you just have to work on them.
So you would recommend every Estonian startup to apply to YC?
Yeah, it's great. YC was definitely a game changer for us. And Silicon Valley in all is different and it's great. Different in a great way. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah,
Woo!
thanks.